We're thrilled today to be joined by Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, on the heels of her new book, A Most Intriguing Lady. Today's conversation, we talk about being serious about joy, of spreading kindness around the world, and how to stay creative and keep your imagination alive. The Duchess talks about how she finally found her voice through her writing. We hope you love this podcast and can follow her example and pay it forward. We are so excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming in on
Not
your
at all.
New York tour. How is it going so far?
Well, I've really enjoyed going to that local coffee shop.
Oh, downstairs?
Yeah,
Oh, fantastic.
I went to the one. I went past on the left down the sidewalk and then turned left. It's that one, and the tea was so good. I went
Oh,
up to
great.
the lady afterwards and thanked her.
Oh, wonderful.
You must go there.
Okay,
Okay,
absolutely.
you go left out. Don't go right.
Oh, okay, because we usually go to the one to the
No,
right.
no. This one's rich, small, and fabulous.
You're becoming a New Yorker.
I am, and it don't be put off because you never judge a book by its cover. And so we went in and we were able to sit down and we had a lovely time there, and it was really lovely. And I went up and literally, I'm very much love my cup of tea, and I went up and thanked her for a really lovely cup of tea.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I
Well, I'm
can't
glad you're
remember.
finding spots.
Well, maybe we'll find the name of it.
Yeah, we can also look for it too.
Yeah, thank you. Go try it.
Absolutely. Well, I know that you've kind of been on a whirlwind in the States, promoting your newest book, A Most Intriguing Lady, which was fantastic.
I really like it.
We did. Yeah,
Did
absolutely.
you?
We were texting back and forth last night. So we both got home and it had been to arrive. So we both were like, we have to get into it before we met each other.
I'm so grateful to read it. I'm so
No,
Sorry.
Why are you apologizing? It's fantastic.
Well, because you probably had, anyway, thank you.
It was so wonderful. And, a lot of people I don't think realize that you've written over 55 books.
I have, and also 48 children's books. So 82 books in total.
That's wild.
It's wild, isn't it, Renee?
Oh my gosh.
And it's just because I noticed Oprah Winfrey the other day did a wonderful documentary about Sidney Poitier. I don't know if you've seen it. Maybe
I haven't seen it yet.
but it's so good, right?
Really?
Yeah. And well, I loved it because I'm mad on Sidney Poitier. And Sidney Poitier says that his secret was he had a curiosity for life, and that he understood that he held a lot of people's dreams in his hands, but he mustn't forget his own dream. And since your podcast is about reaching people out there who don't know how to get their dream made, and you reach them, it's exactly why I did my novels, because I've written so many books, but I've never written a novel. So I did a novel. My first novel was Her Heart for a Compass, which is about Lady Margaret, a great ancestor of mine. And I've always wanted to do it. For 15 years, I've tried to write, to get someone to get me to do a novel. And eventually I thought, well, come on, you need to collaborate. Collaborate? Do you like that?
I do.
Not collaborate, you collaborate. So I went to a historical novelist and I said, look, you're the best historical novelist. Would you ever do a novel with me and teach me how to write? And she did. She agreed. And so we are collaborators together.
That's fantastic.
And now Lady Mary's out today, launch date today. And that's why I'm so excited to be on this podcast with you.
Fantastic. When you undertook that, it was Margaret
K,
who you spoke with. How did you meet her? Like, how did you approach that with her to collaborate with her?
I went straight to HarperCollins.
Okay.
And they are owned by the Murdoch family.
Yeah.
And I think we're really sort of connected because they've probably put me on every front page for the last 37 years. So I thought, well, why not don't fight them, join them.
There you go.
So I went, and it's pretty cool, that, right?
That's very cool. That's an interesting approach.
Isn't it? It's altitude and forgiveness.
Yes.
And you can walk in the door and I hugged them, literally. And all the lawyers were in the room thinking I was coming in for a fight. And they all looked at me and went, what? And they simply couldn't understand it. And so I said, I've got a perfect solution. HarperCollins? Mills and Boon? You have loads of books. I think that you and we should write a novel. And I said, but I need to learn. So could you give me your best historical writer, Margaret K? And she's written 60 books now. She's just got one out. And I met with her, and she's very Scottish, very, very strong Scottish woman.
Okay.
And she knew her own mind. And when she met me, she probably thought I was, flippity jippity sort of Duchess and all this. She's very like that. And so it took her quite a while to decide if she wanted to do it. She's always written on her own. And then she said, well, why not? And now we've come so close. I mean,
that's fantastic.
We are so close. I mean, I could really count her as one of my best friends. I absolutely adore her because she comes at life with such a different look from my own look. So together we collaborate in these books. So she'd say to me, okay, Lady Mary, example. Who is Lady Mary? And of course, Lady Mary is really me. And so book 1, I was quite timid.
Okay.
I didn't have any sex in it. Book 2, someone said to me yesterday, we have to wait for a kiss on page 170. And I went, well, you've got to keep the reader interested. And then so book 2 is I'm more confident. And book 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, fabulous. But it's really down to being confidence in your own self, that you've got a career at 63. You're starting a career.
Yeah.
And you're not, it's not just about being married to a prince. You're starting your own career as your own self.
Well, you've gone through multiple iterations of yourself. You know, I think one of the things that you've been talking about quite a bit in some of the interviews that we have watched of you is the fact that you really feel like you've come into your own as Sarah. And that's something that's liberating for you over the course of the past few years. And are you finding that through your writing?
Do you want them to stop talking out there? Or is it, Amir, can you hear them talking, or is it all right? It's not, it's Lou, I can tell. He always talks. He just needs to go along the passage. I can hear you, buddy. We've been together 31 years.
Loyal crew.
All of them, very loyal crew.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. I didn't want you to think I was being rude.
Not at all. So
we
were at the point of talking about, have you found Sarah through your voice of writing?
Yes. I escaped into women's empowerment and my own empowerment, and into literacy. And I am passionate, I could say obsessed with writing.
Okay.
It's my genre to get my ideas out.
Yeah.
And my views out and my voice out through my characters.
So when, one of the things that we've heard a lot from talking to other writers, you should write what you know. So it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Carolyn Reedy was a great friend of mine, head of Simon Schuster, CEO of Simon Schuster. I loved her. And I used to go and see her and say, Carolyn, come on, I want a novel, please. And she'd say, just go away and write your own life. It is a novel. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I've been lucky enough to live every girl's dream, and sometimes I have to put BGPOs on. Do you know what they are?
I don't.
Mm-hmm. Big girl pants on.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, and you have to get courage. And when all men doubt you, Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all men doubt you and blame it on you, and keep going.
How do you ground yourself? It's, you've had
humor. Okay. Totally humor, and teamwork, and loyalty, and kindness. Honestly, I can't have anyone with me who's not stratospherically kind, because I'm so gentle. And it says a lot about my team that they must love about themselves, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to be with me, because we have to have kindness in the team. And if we don't have it, and respect, and if we don't have it, I can't. I have to live like that.
Yeah.
KQ is I'm working with a scientist, Donna Young, on bringing out KQ for children, kindness quota. So you have EQ, IQ, and KQ.
Oh, wow.
And because you can teach kindness, and we need to teach children kindness.
Well, it's something that's missing in the world right now.
Yes.
And I think it's something that would be so important. And so I think people are looking for it right now, based on what's happening all around us.
100% that I've noticed when the refugees come over the Ukraine border. I'm talking now in particular about 3 to 5 year old who I know, called David and Sophie. And their mum, it was 4 a.m, and the husband went to war. She thought there were fireworks going off. And she picked up David and Sophie and ran 4 a.m. out of the house with nothing. Sophie is very autistic, and she's in the middle of Ukraine What was she supposed to do? Where was she supposed to go? And she ran into the cellars and into places just to hide from the bombs, with the water and the rats, and it's cold, snowing outside, and fireworks, bombs. And how do you describe to a 5 and a 3-year-old that their dad, where's daddy? Where's home? What's happening? And she ran on. She's called Olga, mum's called Olga. She ran on, she got to Warsaw eventually. Took her 7 days. And I met her in Warsaw. I can show you a photograph of her. And I just, every single day I'm so grateful to Olga, because I think about her and I think about her life right now. And I think we've got to help her bring up her children without fear. Because if there are 85.7 million displaced people in the world, why are we not teaching more kindness, more joy, so that we make a better planet for them, so that they don't grow up believing fear, war, violence, drugs, and all these things. So yes, I'm working with Montessori schools. I have 27,000 schools, and I'm their ambassador. I work with them, and we're building Education for the Future Fund in order to bring schools to every single border around Ukraine, and also Yemen, Syria, Afghanistan, anywhere there is a refugee camp or a displaced person.
That's incredible. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And creating such an incredible movement.
Yeah.
You've always given that voice to people, and you've talked a lot and you've done a lot of charity work when it comes to education and literacy for children.
Yes,
You're also, as you had mentioned, you've written so many children's books. It's like, it's such a passion of yours.
Yeah.
Can we dive into that a little bit in terms of where that started and how you started it?
So during the pandemic, I wrote my first novel, and then I realized that there's so many children out there that need to read a book or to hear a story, and they're alone and lonely and sad. And I've always said that all they need is a little bit of levity. So I went on YouTube, started my own YouTube channel called Storytime with Fergie and Friends.
Yes.
And it's 3 to 6 year olds, and I make a set, and then I'm very silly on the set. And I remember sending it all to hospitals and children's charities all over the world. And one of the books that Los Angeles Hospital asked me to read was the Winky Winky Stinky Wonky Donkey. And I was sort of thinking, what? Okay, off we go. It was the most famous book and they wanted me to read it, so I did. And then the Ugandan Children's Hospital and the most incredible development center wanted me to read The Little Hen. And the Out of the Wall gang, the Hole in the Wall gang, asked me to read, so many different books. So I did. And in doing it, I have still gone on doing it. So I do it every single day. Even today now, I've put one in the can for today.
Oh, that's fantastic. In terms of writing children's books, what was the impetus for you to really dive into writing your own?
Well, every single book of mine, all my 82 books, are all semi-autobiographic. So in 1989, I got my helicopter license, and I flew Budgie the helicopter. I flew a helicopter which looked like a budgerigar. So I put on my talking hat.
Okay.
And I flew my helicopter, single-engine Jet Ranger, and I chased rabbits down the runway. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I was explaining to somebody that night who happened to be the leading literary agent in this country for children's. And I didn't know. I was at a dinner, and he said, oh, that sounds very interesting. Why don't you write a children's book? So I wrote it down, and that was in 89. We became number one with Budgie the helicopter in this country, in America. And went on Fox Saturday morning, 9 a.m. animation. There are 60. I think there's 62 licenses and about 42 animation episodes on YouTube right now. Anyway, Budgie the helicopter. Then I went on from Budgie the helicopter to then I really threw myself into Little Red. Yeah, and Little Red is very important to me. Yeah. And she survived. She was for the children of Oklahoma City, and the bombing went off in April 1995, And I flew to Oklahoma City, went up to the first responders and up to the intensive care. And I said, what can I do? They said, save our grandchildren. This was to Dolores, save my grandson. And that was PJ, who I still keep in touch with, both of them. And I then realized, I went to lunch, drew Little Red on a napkin, took the napkin to F.O. Schwartz, made her up into a doll. And she's in Oklahoma City Museum right now.
Oh,
And then I started Chances for Children. I wanted to thank the American people for giving me my life. And by that, I mean, I wanted to say, you gave me a job after my divorce. You gave me strength. You gave me confidence. And you gave me a second chance. So I wanted to thank you all. And so I started the foundation to help the children of the future. So live the brand, educate, educate, educate. And then Little Red was in Howard Nelson Lutnick gave me an office in the 101st floor of the World Trade Center in the North Tower. And Little Red is a rag doll. She stands at around about, 15 inches. And she came down from 101 floors and she was found in the rubble. And CNN filmed it and said, look, a child's doll. And Larry King said, no, that's Fergie's Little Red. And she stands for children's rights all over the world. And from her, I went on and built 156 schools, 56 from the ground up.
that's incredible.
Incredible. In Africa.
That's amazing.
Yes, it's incredible, really. No, I'm not saying I'm incredible. Little Red did it.
Yeah.
But I just really believe in giving children the right to a better planet.
You know, one of the things our network really focuses on is how to find their voice. You know, and you've had a lot of reinvention.
Oh.
You know, as you said, of creating different jobs and really finding your way in the world. Was there ever a time that you had self-doubt around what you were doing? And how did you push through it?
Oh, bless you. Yes. I still do. Still do. You know, I guess that makes me very humble because I don't really think about it. I don't. Yeah, it's really interesting because you haven't. I mean, I've just started having a career in writing novels, but I have a career as a writer.
Yeah.
But I didn't talk about it. So now I'm just getting strength. And so every single time I, like today, launch another book, it gives me more confidence and I get more strength. But I'm beginning to show the true Sarah now. But it's taken a long road. And I think life is about a long road. And I think it's about learning to be a better person every day and being enlightened and being aware and feel your feelings.
When you're writing your stories, it's, as you said, you're putting yourself into it. That's very vulnerable. So what does your writing and creative process look like? It's like that's a lot of self-exploration.
Every minute. But self-exploration is every day for me, every minute of every day. So because I choose joy. Now, you got to choose it. So you've got to find the story to make you choose it. If lot of self-doubt. You're fat, you're this, you're that, you're ugly, this, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You're just horrible to yourself. I'm horrible to myself.
It's our inner voices. It's like shadow self, right?
Shut up. Blah, 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 And I think that's why J.M. Barrie sewed the shadow onto Peter Pan's foot, because he wanted to, his mind was like that. He that's like Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. And I think my darkness is very, very dark. It can be very dark. But I choose not to let it drive me now.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it just robs you of the day. It's a thief. Darkness is a thief. Sometimes. I do like being outside at night. So I'm not saying that dark is bad. I'm just saying if we didn't have the shadow, how would we see the light?
Exactly. And I think everybody struggles with that.
I hope they do. I always thought it was just me. But now I realize that everybody does. And so it's kind of reassuring that you're not going completely and utterly mad.
With your books, are you looking at some point to produce or direct or create or bring your books to film or to the screen, small or big? Well,
Gretchen and Rennie, I have to say, I hope this is a shout out because I want to direct my own film.
Fantastic.
Yes, and I don't know. That's why I was quite interested in talking to your friend Paul, and I just believe it's time. And then I got inspiration from Sidney Poitier, because he said, "Oh, I decided to go into comedy, and then I decided to go into directing. Then I
Yeah.
decided to go into." I'm following his example.
It's interesting because we talk to so many different folks on their journeys, and I think directing is something that everybody is a little scared to dip their toe in, but they're ready to do it. And when that moment comes, they embrace it. And I think it's something we definitely learn from Paul and some of our other folks that we can obviously connect you with if you like.
Well, thank you so much. But I also think it's so beautiful to give young people a chance.
Yeah.
So I know that we're going to make a TV series about my books, but I want the writer to be young, straight out of college, that has never been given the opportunity. So if you ever hear of somebody like that who would like to write a screenplay for me, I'm game on.
I feel like you're going to get inundated from our network after this podcast airs. Yes.
Really? Well, maybe someone could vet them for me.
Yes. We're going to have to create a barrier.
Historical romance, it needs to be.
Yeah.
Please. But it might not be these books. It might be something else I've got in my head.
I was going to say, you have a deal for 22 more novels?
Much more than that.
More than that.
Yeah. I don't know where the 22 came from. It's kind of a random
It's something
number.
it's a number that's popping up.
I know, but I haven't denied it, because that means some publisher somewhere will have to keep publishing.
There you
books. Go. Yeah. And then so, I've definitely, I talked to someone last night, definitely book 3 is going to be hysterical. Really, it's very funny.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Have you already started it? The seedling? Okay.
But it's in my head, and last night these 2 publishers said, my publisher, my lovely Rachel, she said, "What's it about?" And I went, because it's so fabulously Paris, Provence, and sort of deliciously 1870 and that time.
Oh, that's
Can
gonna
you
be
imagine?
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's going to be incredible.
Incredible.
There's so many stories when you start thinking back in history that you can bring to light and play with and create your own.
Yep.
What's Sarah going to do in it, though? Since you're,
I think she's going to. Well, I think actually maybe I should become an actress. I do think I'd like to act.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to go, and I definitely want to be in a Hallmark film. Definitely.
They're ready for you.
Yes, I need to be in a Hallmark film.
I want to write a Hallmark film.
Okay. Okay, you write it. Can I be in your Hallmark film?
Done.
Okay, done. Okay. So are you a screenplay writer?
I want to write. So one of actually my goals is to write a children's book, and I'm kind of figuring out how to do that and talking to people. So I'm probably letting a cat out of the bag here, but I want to rebrand Stepmoms. Because I'm a stepmother. I have 2 stepkids. One is 14 and 10. And I feel like we have with Cinderella, and I feel like we have a bad rap.
You definitely do.
So I'd like to reinvent it, just because at the end of the day, we all love the children.
Why didn't you do it with my daughter, Beatrice?
I would love to.
Because she has a stepson, age 6.
And we all have.
And she has dyslexia.
Oh my gosh.
And she would love to do it with you.
I would 100% do it with her.
It would be very good, because she says to me a lot, she says it's like learning a new trade. You've got to.
It's a completely different type of relationship, and I adore my stepkids. And if I could do that and come up with stories to let children know that they're loved by everybody, that it's not mom versus stepmom or.
Sure. I actually think that is a really brilliant idea. Well done letting the cat out of the bag. But I can definitely 100% help you. So I'll be behind the scenes if you don't want my name on it. But Beatrice might like it. I don't know, poor Beatrice, she might be busy. But I can definitely help you. It's 32 pages you're wanting?
Yes.
3 to 6-year-olds?
Yes.
Got it. I can help you. You just have to visualize it. Okay, so let me tell you how to do it. Okay, so let's go to Budgie the helicopter. Okay. Where does Budgie live?
At the hangar.
Yeah. Oh, really? And what's the hangar like? Is there a mouse there?
Maybe.
And a cat?
Of course.
Okay. And are the airplanes falling asleep because it's a hot day?
Yes.
Have you visualized the hangar now?
I have visualized the hangar.
You have, haven't you?
Yes.
So now you can write the story.
There you go.
There you go. You just visualize what you want.
Yeah.
But don't get too complicated, and too many people that will tell you too much.
It's interesting because it's, I've sat down to and tried to sketch it out, and it's so interesting because you almost go too in depth because you overthink it as an adult, and to relate to a 3 or 6-year-old.
Don't think.
It's what we do to ourselves.
Yeah, but that's because
it's what we wrap.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
You actually are projecting because you're a grown-up. Well, what are you doing? You've got to go back to your little 5-year-old and say, right, okay, let's do it. Let's do it now. I mean, this chair swivels, right?
Yeah.
It's a really funny swivelly chair. Could make you feel seasick. Yeah.
It could.
Yeah. I don't know why, but when I go to when I go to sit down somewhere, I feel seasick. Why do I feel seasick? Well, now you feel seasick because I'm a swivelly chair. What? You can't talk to me, swivelly chair. Why are you talking to me? Well, because I talk. I'm a swivelly chair and I can talk.
The creativity that is just pouring out of you.
It's very funny. I like this.
It's amazing.
I like the feeling of a swivelly chair.
A swivelly chair.
Yeah. Because of course it does.
It does.
When I sat down, Amir, when I sat down and went, oh, I could have sleep. It wrote straight away. I thought, oh, that's very funny, swivelly chair. I didn't put that.
But it brings it back because that's how, in some ways, that's how a child would think. They'd be like, oh, I'm on a boat, and it's the imagination that as we become adults and we have more context around the world, we almost lose the imagination.
Yeah. Well, that's why I live in 3 to 6-year-olds, because it makes me laugh. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
To think of
it's joy.
Chair. Yeah.
Joy comes from simple things, and that's how you
choose it.
Choose joy.
Now I want you to go and say to the girl in the tea shop that I had a lovely cup of tea.
Yes.
And she won't know who I was, probably, because I'm this redhead, and she probably doesn't matter if she did or she didn't. But I stopped and thanked her for her tea, and she was shocked.
It's kindness.
Yeah. She was shocked. How can you be shocked with someone saying, literally, thank you? But that's what we're coming to.
It's taking a moment and putting yourself out there, making
Yes.
sure that somebody else's day gets better, and taking those small moments in time.
Yes. Now I
Have a
want to
ripple
tell you.
effect.
I want to tell you quickly, because I'm sure everybody is thinking, shut up. Anyway, now I'm going to take you to a rubbish dump in Sierra Leone. Okay?
Yes.
So you're on the rubbish dump and you're going along, and you just see so much rubbish, garbage.
Yeah.
Right? And you go up to a boy who's 15, and I said to him, hello, what's your name? And he didn't look me in the eye. He had his head down. And he said, Joseph, ma'am. And I went, no, hold on a minute. That's very polite. You must have lovely parents that have brought you up so beautifully. And he said, yes, I was at school. And I said, well, wow, what do you want to be? Oh, ma'am, I'm going to be a lawyer. Oh, you're going to be a lawyer? Okay, great. I said, well, how are you doing today? And he said, well, I have to pick up certain bits of rubbish that I can then sell to pay for my parents who are very ill at home. So only way I can make money is by picking up rubbish.
Yeah.
And I said to Joseph, well, Joseph, now look me in the eye. And he looked his eyes up and he said, hello. And I said, Joseph, you deserve respect. You are inspiring millions of children globally never to give up. And you've left school to help your mother and father. You are the one who will win. So you put your head up. And every time you see me anywhere in the world, you know I'm with you and talking about you. I am, aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
And then I went on to help Joseph, and we opened 18 schools in Sierra Leone. And I just think Joseph needs a chance. Anyway, he has a mobile telephone. Everybody seems to have mobile telephones.
Yeah.
They really do, which is their way to connect to the world. Well, why haven't we built a network for them to be able to talk, to put their voice out there on their own network? So that's one thing I'm doing it's called Aspire Africa.
Yes.
And I'm really, really supporting that and trying to help them get the network going in Africa. So, because I've been, most of my schools are in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Uganda.
Yeah.
So I'm Kenya. And I just really believe strongly in reaching, which is why I did this podcast today.
Yeah. In terms of, you've given so much back. Was this something was giving back and charity and working, to build schools, or, you obviously found that passion. Was that always ingrained in you and your raising? Was that something your parents did, or was it?
Um, yes, my grandmother said that if you feel bad about yourself, give to others. And so I did.
Yeah.
And I have.
It's like it's obviously been part of the royal family. It's like, there's so much that
Before
goes
that,
before the
yeah.
queen, but before that, in
Yeah.
terms of when you were a little girl. And
When I was little, when I worked for, I think I was cleaning floors and sweeping up for lonely people when I was about 16, 17, something like that.
Okay.
And it went on from there, really.
Oh, wow. Really had an effect on you.
Yes, yes. And then when I hit the public stage, to be able to help other people is just extraordinary. It is just extraordinary. But never forget that minute you walk out of your door, you're on.
Yeah.
So you do not forget that.
I read an article where you told your daughters that.
Don't be a grumpy
Don't be a grumpy princess.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
No one wants to see a grumpy princess. So if you are going to be grumpy, don't go out of your door.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be. You've got to hold the dreams of people in your hand, but as I said before, but hold your own dreams too.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you're doing that.
Thank you.
The one area that I'd love to talk a little bit about is mentorship. I know you've talked a bit lately about the queen, but other mentors as well as her, in terms of the advice that sticks with you, that voice in your head when you wake up and when you're attacking these new projects or embracing these new projects.
Well, I think that I've been lucky enough to meet extraordinary people.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mandela was amazing about forgiveness and how he forgave his perpetrators his captors for 28 years. He was locked in jail, and how he forgave them and then became president. Then there was the Dalai Lama. When I got to India to go to see him in Dharamsala, I got off the train, and the taxi drove off with all my bags in the back. And so I got on the next train to get up to Dharamsala just with myself. And I realized that I'd taken so much homework to study on the Dalai Lama, but really the studying should just be there. And when I got to Dharamsala, I waited 6 weeks to have an audience with His Holiness, because that was right. He needed to be sure that I was really sure about who I was.
Yeah.
He didn't know that he did that, but that's what happened. And when I did eventually go and see His Holiness, he said, he said, "So why are you here?" I said, "Well, I really need to talk about forgiveness or guilt." And he went, "What? Sorry, guilt?" I said, "Yes, guilt." And he said, "No, I don't understand the word. What is guilt?" And he said, "There's no such word in the Tibetan dictionary. So why do you feel guilty?" And I went, "Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much." And he said, "Is it clear that it's only a fabrication of your own mind that made that guilt, that word?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, Your Holiness, that's so clear." And then he immediately turned it and said, "That's not clear because it rains in England all the time." Because with humor, he had solidified a message. And I learned that. So that was huge. And then the Queen and my mother-in-law and a great lady who we walked in the garden a lot with the doggies.
Yeah.
And we always called it "Let's Go Dog Walking." It was our ritual.
Yeah.
And I just felt so happy when I was there with her in the gardens. It was just a cherished moment.
What an extraordinary life you have.
What an extraordinary life.
It's just in terms of what you see and what you're able to take in and then put out there in the world in terms of joy and giving back and seeing all of that and being able to contextualize it in a way that gives back to the world.
Thank you. I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
Joy and finding joy. And that's why I am a storyteller. So everything is fascinating.
Were you a storyteller as a child? Did you always?
Yes, I think, but I kept making up stories, and I think Dad thought I was lying or I was naughty. I was always criticised because I had a big bath hat of red curls, and I just was always, from the minute I was born, I was this big redhead,
Yeah.
and bullied terribly. In 1959, people bullied much worse than now. They bullied because you were different.
Yeah.
And you were really strange because you were different. And we are an endangered species, us redheads. But it's been very interesting to see the trolling and the cyberbullying now. And Diana and I, we had a lot of front page bullying.
Yeah.
In the newspapers and then, and now people say, is it better or worse? It's all the same. It's bullying, which I just abhor.
And then it's also on social. It's also in digital platforms.
And trolling
viral.
warrior.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And well, exactly, because that's when you started all of the things you told me before we started this podcast with Gretchen and Rennie. Is, what's it called again? Your show?
In her words.
In her words. In all of this, it's extraordinary what's going on. In her words, here I am, Sarah, and I'm talking to Rennie and Gretchen in her words today, because I chose to come here because it's real, and it makes me happy to be here.
And we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Can I have one or two more questions?
Oh, sure,
okay.
Sure.
You've been in the press for so long. As you're starting to define yourself, do you find yourself, both like culturally as well as through the media, do you find yourself are they accepting of your new narrative? Are they accepting of Sarah right now?
Renee, do you know what's so interesting is that I'm thrilled to be back in America, and I am an Anglo-American, and when I'm here, I love it because it's so real, and people accept me as Sarah and colourful and myself, and so I love it. There's good energy and kindness, and people are nice, and hi Fergie, and they're nice,
Yeah.
And then I have to be so mindful that maybe in Britain one of the newspapers is going to say, now what's she talking about,
Yeah.
or something.
It's so different.
It's so different. And so do I love, so the answer is keep to the narrative, which is your own authentic narrative.
Yeah.
As you can see, Rennie, I'm here quite happily talking to you about any subject. I'm not going back to the book or back to this or back to that. No, I'm just chatting to you, right? And you're very easy to chat to. And also I respect your work and Gretchen's work.
Thank you.
And I just feel very strongly that, it's hard, but I'm me now.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if because I am me, they'll back off, maybe
they'll see the authenticity.
Yes, and maybe it's so exciting that the newspapers have maybe done me a great favor.
Yeah.
Because they were a lot of obstacles, but now maybe the obstacles will help me. But Rennie, if I didn't have this podcast, if I didn't have my platform, how can I tell you about Joseph?
Exactly.
You can't, can you?
You can't.
Just before I go, because I know everyone's going to say, you got to go. But just quickly, 28, not visually impaired, 28 blind children came over from Ukraine. They came to Poland and Upper Silesia, where I was in Warsaw, and I traveled to meet them. They had to leave because the road was bombed and the parents couldn't go to the school to pick them up. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
And when they arrived in Upper Silesia, they arrived with the 80-year-old man who walked them for 5 days through the cellars again with no food. They got to where I met them, and in this lovely special needs school where they were staying, and they sang to me. And they sang to me with such heart. They were a choir. They were a blind choir.
Oh my gosh.
And they call the song Your Hand in Mine. Oh my gosh, if you heard the music, I've got it somewhere. It's a little, I said, why don't you put that song, Your Hand in Mine? Why don't you make a little disc?
Yeah.
And why don't we put it out there to inspire children all over the world never to give up if you've done it?
Yeah.
And so we made the disc with Polish TV helped us. We made a little video. And then I decided we needed to pep it up a bit. So I decided, well, I'll go and find the great composer in Los Angeles, Laurent Etienne, who's incredible.
Incredible.
So I went to see Laurent Etienne and I said, please could you turn this into a song that everybody in the world will cry to? Oh, so he did. And then I gave it to Andrea Bocelli. And I think, of course, and I think that, anyway, we're in process now. Let's see what happens. We're not there yet. We're still, this is where we are right now. But I think that is really what it's all about, is ask for help, collaborate and collaborate, and just give these children the eyes of the world so the world can see them.
Oh, well, thank you so much for everything you do.
Oh my gosh.
So you give so much back, and we so
Love it.
appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much.
No, thank you. And when you hear
I can't wait to hear it.
your hand in mine, and they all walk in a line holding a hand,
Oh,
because it's the only way they can not get lost.
oh my God.
Eventually, just to let the listeners know that we did manage to get the youngest ones back to their parents.
Okay.
And so there's 12 who are the real choir, they're strong enough to be in the choir.
When will it be released?
When I get off my book tour and get my act together.
One of the many projects.
Although I did see Laurent
Okay.
in Los Angeles last week on the book tour, so
Okay.
I've just got to keep up with myself. I'm slightly irritating because I keep finding myself
New projects.
new projects, and every time a door closes, another idea comes in.
But that's fantastic.
I know.
And you can execute on all of your ideas, which is
I try. No, I
incredible.
have to work hard at
Yeah.
it.
It's amazing.
No, I do know. Sometimes I can't. So anybody who's listening say, "Oh, you only do that because you're a duchess." No, because sometimes people don't want anything to do with you because of the narrative or because
Yeah.
somebody has a judgment on you, so they run. I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's
Well-
it's life. You just never. I wrote 2 history books on Queen Victoria and Albert, and Sandra Powell won an Oscar for my film.
Yes.
For best costume, and it took me 15 years. Don't give up, never give up.
Never give up.
And I'm going to write. Oh, you can write the film. I'm doing another
go.
one because I've decided to win an Oscar for best production,
Oh wow.
so I can get up on stage. I think
Okay.
that's important. And my
Absolutely.
mantelpiece needs an Oscar.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Another and of all the things.
See,
You gotta go for what you want though.
Yeah.
But that's
you're
that's a
doing
goal.
the stepmothers. That's great.
Stepmothers.
Yeah, I had
So-
one, and she saved my life. Oh yeah, I'll help you. I still called her the wicked stepmother.
I hope my kids don't call me a wicked stepmother, but
WSM. I did it as a joke.
But yeah.
I did it as a joke. I know what you do. You call it Wicked Stepmother. Don't judge a book by its cover.
I like that.
Oh,
I
that's
like
very
that.
funny.
Yeah, I was looking at because my stepdaughter and I do a lot of stuff together, and I actually quasi named it of Adventures of Abigail and Rebecca. So
Nice.
be-
That's good.
yes,
Is that cause your name?
yes. R for Renee, Rebecca, and A for Alicia is my stepdaughter, and I just chose Abigail. I was just playing around with titles.
Abigail. So she's a little girl, is she?
Yes,
Does she have boots or shoes?
boots.
Boots. So she likes to go outside.
Yeah.
Does she?
Yes.
Does she make mud pies?
No.
Why not?
I'm not quite sure. I'd look at my husband for that.
But you see what I mean?
But she could.
But she
She
could.
could.
Because aren't mud pies fascinating?
Mud pies are so fast.
When you were little, didn't you play with mud pies?
I definitely played with
Well,
mud pies.
Renee,
There you go.
you are.
Big in baking too.
Of
And
course.
imaginary baking.
Oh, yeah, no. Of course, you chocolate
Yeah,
cookies.
all of it.
Which is mud.
Yes.
And then you put it in the,
Yeah,
yeah. And rhododendron leaves into teacups.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
So you just forgot.
Just forgot. It's about the imagination.
Uh-huh.
I love it.
You're just gone now to Abigail's sitting in a mud pie.
I love it.
And if you turn left to go to your cafe to
I will
to
say
the
thank
girl,
you.
there is a bucket with a frog swimming in it. Yeah. There is, on the way.
On the way?
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm going to go and buy 2 for my
You
grandchildren.
gotta love Canal Street. Always the fun toys.
Really?
Always.
A frog swimming in the bath. August and Sienna will go mad.
And you're gonna be a grandmother for the 3rd time.
Yes. So the 3rd one will go mad too, with the frog swimming in the bath.
Ah, well, we're so excited about all of your success.
Thank you.
And we couldn't wish you more luck and all of the continued success that's
Thank you.
in
Well,
front of you.
I've loved this. I've loved doing this. It's very nice. It's because you've worked really hard on this interview.
I have a lot of notes.
You do. But I think you've got the key.
But it was more about you.
Thank you. I know, but you've worked really hard. And thank you so much.
Good.
Come on, Lauren. I've got to go.
Thank you so
Renee,
much.
no,
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To stay up to date with In Her Words, join the conversation by following Women in Entertainment on our social channels and subscribe to our weekly newsletter at womeninentertainment.com.